For those I haven't yet met, my name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her. And other duties as assigned at the Abbey, I guess, means preaching sometimes too. So here we are. Yeah. My dad hated Christmas music. He often lamented that the songs were overplayed and that he had heard Burl Ives sing Have a Holly Jolly Christmas over 1,000,000 times. Now, I do think he had heard it a bunch, but he had a flair for embellishing, so I don't know if it was quite 1,000,000 times, but it was a lot. I love Christmas. I love the lights. I love the traditions, the music, the atmosphere. I love it. My mom would usually negotiate the Christmas music radio stations being played in the car starting Thanksgiving, but never any earlier, as long as my dad was in the car. My dad was the director of the Men's Barbershop Chorus in Lincoln for over 30 years, and every year they would do a Christmas show. I think that also played into why Dad hated Christmas music, because they would do the same set of songs every single year. They would do it in their Cosby-style sweaters, singing the Christmas standards, and then one that I specifically loved. In an effort to be inclusive, they had one song that was a Hanukkah medley. Every year they would do it, and every year my dad would stand on stage smiling, and you would never know that it was his least favorite concert to put on. The concert was the official beginning of the Christmas season for me. During the show, they would have quartets from the chorus featured as a low-stakes way for guys to sing and be involved in a more intimate way. And there was one quartet that I will not name that was absolutely terrible. But in an effort to allow everyone the opportunity, my dad would have them sing on the Christmas show because it was, whatever, it's Christmas. And every year, they would sing the same song, Lo, How a Rose Are Blooming, and every year they would sing it absolutely terribly. Absolutely terribly. Ugh. But even through the wrong notes and out-of-tune chords, I still found the song beautiful. Lo, How a Rose has been called a Christmas carol for musicians. Most Christmas carols, and most of our popular songs, generally exist for the rhythm or the melody. Consider how much mileage Angels We Have Heard on High gets out of its cascading glorias, or how much of the fun of Carol of the Bells springs from its icy intervals or insistent tempo. But Lo, How a Rose exists for the chords. There is almost no rhythmic variation. The four parts move together, syllable after syllable, in patient harmony. This is a hymn about beholding and listening. It is about watching revelation flourish. The hymn's origins may be traced back to the late 16th century in a manuscript found in St. Albans Monastery in Trier. In the original German, Ist ein Rose entsprungen, or however you say it. I feel like that's probably close, right? My dad took German, I did not. The original stanzas focused on the events of Luke 1 and 2 and Matthew 2. So here are the lyrics in case you're unfamiliar with them. Lo, how a rose ere blooming from tender stem hath sprung, of Jesse's lineage coming, as men of old have sung. It came a flower bright amid the cold of winter, when half spent was the night. Isaiah had foretold it, the rose I have in mind. With Mary we behold it, the Virgin Mother kind. To show God's love aright, she bore to us a Savior, when half spent was the night. So it was first set to music as a hymn in the Spire hymnal, published in Cologne in 1599, with a melody probably derived from plain chant. 10 years later, the renowned German organist and composer Michael Praetorius published a moving, tender harmonization of the hymn that has remained intact for more than 4 centuries. It was originally a 12th night carol sung in early January as the season of Christmas concluded and the Feast of Epiphany approached. Based on messianic prophecies from Isaiah, the rose in this carol traditionally is a symbolic reference to Mary, the mother of Jesus. The first of 2 original verses is the prophecy of Isaiah foretelling the birth of Jesus and emphasizing the royal Davidian lineage of Jesus. It speaks of a rose sprouting from the tree of Jesse, the father of David. This image was particularly popular in art in medieval times. The second verse explains the symbolism of Jesus' mother, Mary, as the rose that has sprung up to bear a child. The child is represented as the small flower. It emphasizes the birth of Jesus with Mary as the pure maiden. It is believed that the original expression of the text in its Catholic form refers to Mary. But it was the Protestant Praetorius who shifted the interpretation of the rose in Isaiah's text from Mary to Jesus. Using the blooming of a rose to represent the coming of Christ can be profound. 1 year ago today, my father died. It was sudden, it was unexpected, and put my whole family into a state of shock. My life has been turned upside down in the last year. The foundation of my life for the last 37 years was gone. The first Christmas Eve after my dad had died, the month anniversary of his passing being on Christmas Eve, no less, was terrible. I was out of sorts. I was lost. I was grieving. I still am grieving. I sat on those back stairs on Christmas Eve and I cried. My dad had a booming and beautiful bass voice. He received his bachelor's degree in music education before ultimately deciding teaching was not for him, and he became a lawyer for over 30 years. But he was a singer at heart and sang in barbershop quartets, church choirs, solos, you name it, he did it, all the way from high school, college, and well into adulthood. I have very, very vivid memories of standing between him and my mom during church as a kid, singing and harmonizing with them through all the Presbyterian hymns. He'd often get comments from the parishioners around him saying how great his voice was, how he should sing more, how he should be a professional singer and sing in the church choir, and he'd just kind of smile and nod and say thanks. My dad was an incredible musician, and singing was his gift. I'm lucky that he shared that love of music with me. I think that music is one of the ways that our soul really connects with the world. Music can instantly bring back a feeling, a memory, a time, a place. I still remember my senior prom, the song that we danced to. And whenever I hear it, it brings me back to that place. Or a song that I heard in the car on a road trip with my friends brings me back to that place. Music is eternal and music is powerful. But after his passing, music felt different. The joy that Christmas songs and hymns usually only brought me sadness and disillusionment. For the first time last year, I hosted our family Christmas at my house. And I have to say, my dad was the cook, and he cooked every meal very well. And my sister and I tried to fill in the best we could, but it wasn't quite the same. The time of year I usually loved was filled with grief, longing, sadness, and disruption. And as a creature of habit, any disruption in my process is a shock to my system. And let me tell you, this was a shock. Advent began not with the annual barbershop Christmas concert, but instead with the death of my father. After the initial shock was over, and my mom had FaceTimed my sister and I to let us know what happened, we just immediately jumped into planning the funeral, planning the burial, and all that went with it, planning my Nibblings upcoming Job's Daughter event that my dad was going to be a key part of, planning my mom's travel for the holidays and the funeral, planning Christmas, and planning my mom's move back to Nebraska. I did forget to say my parents were living in South Carolina at the time where all this happened. They retired there about 10 years, so it was kind of a shift of how do we get things back. We had to sort through paperwork and bank statements and life insurance information. My mom had to learn the intricate way my father handled the finances. December and January were a blur. We were picking up the pieces of a family that had been pulled apart very suddenly, doing our best to keep it all together. In the past year, however, as I've read more and reflected more on my grief, lo, how a rose ere blooming keeps coming up. I'm not sure why I feel so called to it or connected to it, yet something about it really resonates with me. I'm not going to give you trite or cliche statements like it'll happen for a reason and God needed him more than you did, because we sure still need him a hell of a lot. But the words of Lo, how a rose delivers us into the lap of hope that there can be and there is light to dispel the darkness. There can be beauty in the midst of what is barren and ugly. the rose grows in the snow. And amidst the cold of winter, it came a flower bright. For all the crap that has been in the past year, there has been some good. My mom now lives 30 minutes away instead of 3 days. I've learned how resilient I am, how strong and close we are as a family. My boyfriend and I have a deeper love and understanding for each other. My nibbling and I have gotten closer. And while I am a member of the Dead Dad Club, I know who I am on a deeper level as well. Hope can illuminate us in the midst of darkness of so many things, and I am hopeful. I know the state of the world right now is hard, especially here in the U.S. It doesn't seem like there is a lot to be hopeful for. I find hope in community. I find hope in the work that we do and have done to save each other. I find hope in my family, in the work that I do at the Abbey, and the relationships that I have here. And as we begin Advent next week, even as I am filled with grief for the loss of my father, I also have hope. I have hope for the community we continue to grow and cultivate here at the Abbey and on campuses across the metro. I have hope for the local nonprofit communities that we partner with that I see growing after the election. I have hope for my family as we continue to navigate being 4 instead of 5. I can be sad and I can be grieving, but I can also have a kernel of hope. I am a hater at my core. I'm a pessimist. I always see the glass as half empty, and I always expect the worst. I am an Enneagram 6 through and through, if you know what that means. I'm a realist, and I want everything to be good, but I've learned that life can't be put into a beautiful box. I wish I could be an optimist, but I think my Presbyterian upbringing really pounded into me a sense of, being downtrodden or just like sadness. And hope isn't always easy for me to find, truly. Part of my healing process has been finding hope, finding the rose in the snow. I try to find something to be grateful for and hopeful for each day. And some days it is really, really hard. The point is that I try. I'm trying to find the glimmers of hope, the glimmers of my dad in my day-to-day life. Music is now heartening again and gives me life and hope once more. I sing in the car and I sing in the shower again. I make up little songs for my cat. Music is back in my life. My house and my life were so quiet a year ago, as music brought me so much sadness. But now it's back. And as we prepare for Advent, I invite you to find the hope. I invite you to bring the music back into your life if it's missing. I invite you to find your rose in the snow and whatever gives you hope. Please don't mistake this for toxic positivity, because that's not what it is. You can feel the grief, feel the sadness, the longing, the cold that the long winter can bring. But don't forget to bring in the warmth of hope and joy, too. This Christmas Eve and Christmas, I will sing. I will try to sing, but I will also honor and feel any feelings that come up. I will have hope that there will be a bright side, that community will save us. Community will save me. The duality of grief and hope is a hard place to be, but it's where I need to be right now. This year, I will do my Advent calendar, available here at the Abbey. I will light my candles, and I will drive around listening to Christmas music at full blast while looking at Christmas lights. And I will remember my dad. I will center my joy and hope while also centering my grief and my sadness. I can live in duality and lean into each side as I need to. My dad lives on through my mom, my sister, my nibbling. He lives on through the innumerable lives that he's touched being involved with Barbershop and his time working for the state of Nebraska. He's with us through recordings, videos, pictures, memories, stories. If we're chatting and I happen to bring up a story about my dad, please indulge me. His love resonates in my heart, and I take him wherever I go. So as we listen to Kate play Lo How a Rose on her cello, I invite you to think of the joy and the hope that you can find in the cold snow and the winter. The song has ended, but the melody lingers on.